UConn had just punched their ticket to their 24th Final Four, confetti was flying, and fans were going wild. But in a moment now going viral, legendary coach Geno Auriemma completely froze out his star player Paige Bueckers during the height of the celebration. Cameras caught everything. Paige approaching her coach with confetti in hand, flipping his hat backward, and Geno's cold shoulder that left her visibly stunned. This awkward encounter speaks volumes about their complicated relationship, with Paige's WNBA departure looming large. The moment happened so fast you might have missed it if you weren't paying attention. There was Geno Auriemma, the legendary UConn women's basketball coach, in the middle of a post-game interview celebrating his team's monumental achievement, their 24th Final Four appearance. The crowd was electric, confetti falling from the ceiling, and players celebrating everywhere. In the middle of this chaos, Paige Bueckers, UConn's superstar and the heart and soul of this team, runs up to her coach in pure jubilation. She's holding confetti, smiling from ear to ear, playfully flipping Geno's hat backward, a celebratory gesture that captures her personality perfectly. It's exactly the kind of moment that should encapsulate everything great about college basketball, the culmination of years of hard work and dedication. And then something unexpected happened. Geno didn't turn around. He didn't acknowledge her presence. He didn't even flinch. He just continued his interview as if nothing had happened, as if his star player wasn't right there trying to share this monumental moment with him. The cameras caught it all, Paige's initial excitement, her playful gesture, and then that split second where her expression changed. That flash of confusion, maybe even hurt, that crossed her face as she realized her coach wasn't going to acknowledge her. It was the kind of raw, unfiltered moment that tells us so much more than any press conference ever could. Now let's be clear about something important here. The relationship between Geno Auriemma and Paige Bueckers is complex and multi-layered. These two have a bond that goes far beyond the typical coach-player dynamic. Throughout Paige's career at UConn, Geno has been both her harshest critic and her biggest supporter. He's pushed her to heights even she probably didn't think possible, demanding excellence at every turn. And Paige has delivered. She arrived at UConn as the #1 recruit in the country, carrying the weight of enormous expectations on her shoulders. Not only did she meet those expectations, but she shattered them. She's been the face of women's college basketball, alongside Caitlin Clark, elevating the game to new heights and bringing unprecedented attention to the sport. But now everything is changing. Paige has officially declared for the 2025 WNBA draft. She's projected to be the #1 overall pick, which would send her to Dallas, far away from the UConn campus she's called home these past years. Far away from Geno Auriemma, the coach who's been such a formative figure in her basketball journey, and this is where things get interesting when we analyze that snubbing moment, because what we witnessed might not have been rudeness or indifference on Geno's part. What we might have seen was a coach who simply doesn't know how to handle the emotions of saying goodbye to a player who means so much to him and his program. Think about it from Geno's perspective for a moment. This is a coach who's built a dynasty at UConn, who's seen countless stars come through his program. He's coached Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird, Maya Moore, Breanna Stewart, literal legends of the game. Yet there's something special about his relationship with Paige, something different. Throughout her career, he's been particularly protective of her, especially after she battled back from injuries that threatened to derail her college career. Geno has never been one to wear his emotions on his sleeve. He's built a reputation as a tough, no-nonsense coach who doesn't coddle his players. His press conferences are legendary for their bluntness and occasional sarcasm. He's not the type to get sentimental in public. So when Paige approaches him during that interview, playfully disrupting his moment, we're not seeing a coach who's annoyed or dismissive. We're seeing a coach who's adopting the "if I don't acknowledge it, it's not happening" approach to dealing with something that's emotionally difficult for him, saying goodbye to Paige Bueckers. The irony here is that by not acknowledging her in that moment, by continuing with his interview as if nothing happened, Geno created exactly the kind of viral moment he probably wanted to avoid. If he'd turned around, given Paige a hug or acknowledged her excitement, it would have been a heartwarming clip that played on sports highlight reels. Instead, his non-reaction became the story, sparking debates about whether he was being cold or dismissive toward his star player. What's fascinating about this situation is that despite how it might appear to outsiders, those close to the program insist that Paige wouldn't have it any other way. The tough love, the high expectations, the occasional cold shoulder, it's all part of the Geno Auriemma experience that she signed up for when she chose UConn. and by all accounts, their relationship behind closed doors is one of mutual respect and admiration. In many ways, this moment is emblematic of what has made the UCONN program so successful under Geno's leadership. He doesn't treat basketball as just a game, he approaches it with the seriousness of a professional endeavor. His players aren't just athletes, they're extensions of his basketball philosophy on the court, and when they succeed, as Paige has, he takes immense pride in their achievements, even if he doesn't always show it in the ways people might expect. But there's another layer to consider here as well. UCONN hasn't won a national championship since 2016, an eternity by their standards. With Paige Bueckers departing for the wnba after the season, this is their last chance to win one with her leading the charge. The pressure to end that title drought is immense, both for Geno and for Paige, so perhaps in that moment, with the cameras rolling and the celebration underway, Geno was already thinking ahead. The Final Four berth is an achievement certainly, but for a program with UCONN's history, the goal is always a national championship. Maybe his mind was already on their next opponent, already strategizing how to get his team to cut down the nets in the final game of the tournament. It's worth noting that this is far from the first time Geno's coaching style has come under scrutiny. Throughout his illustrious career, he's faced criticism for his demanding approach, for the high standards he sets, for the blunt way he sometimes speaks to and about his players. Yet the results speak for themselves. 11 national championships, 24 Final Four appearances, and a program that has become the gold standard in women's college basketball. What makes this particular moment so captivating is that it came at such a pivotal time in both Geno's and Paige's careers. For Paige, this is her swan song, her final opportunity to leave her mark on the college game before taking her talents to the professional level. For Geno, it's a chance to prove that even after all these years, he can still lead a team to the promised land, even in an era where competition in women's college basketball is fiercer than ever. The dynamics at play here extend beyond just Geno and Paige. UCONN as a program is at an interesting crossroads. For years they were the undisputed powerhouse in women's college basketball, the team everyone aspired to beat but few actually could. But in recent years, other programs have risen to challenge their dominance, South Carolina under Dawn Staley, Stanford with Tara Vanderveer, and others who have closed the gap. Winning a championship this year in Paige's final season would make a powerful statement that UCONN is still a force to be reckoned with, that the dynasty Geno built remains strong. The pressure to achieve that goal might explain some of the tension we witnessed in that viral moment. It's also worth considering how today's media landscape amplifies moments like these. In the past, a brief interaction like this might have gone unnoticed or unremarked upon, but in the age of social media, with cameras capturing every moment and viewers ready to dissect every interaction, what might once have been a private moment between coach and player becomes fodder for public consumption and debate. The narrative around this moment has taken on a life of its own, with some painting Geno as cold or dismissive, and others defending his focus and professionalism. The truth, as is often the case, likely lies somewhere in the middle, a complex interaction between two people with a complex relationship, caught on camera at a moment of high emotion. What's undeniable is the special bond that exists between Geno Auriemma and Paige Bueckers, regardless of how it might appear in any single moment. Throughout her time at UCONN, he's been her greatest champion, praising her basketball IQ, her work ethic, her ability to make everyone around her better. He's called her a once-in-a-generation talent, the kind of player coaches dream of having on their team, and Paige, for her part, has consistently spoken about the tremendous respect she has for Geno, how his demanding coaching style has pushed her to become the player she is today. She's embraced the UCONN tradition, understanding the responsibility that comes with wearing that jersey and representing a program with such a storied history. The journey they've been on together hasn't been without its challenges. Paige has dealt with serious injuries during her college career, setbacks that threatened to derail her trajectory. During those difficult times, Geno was there, supporting her through the rehabilitation process, adjusting his expectations and timelines, showing a softer side that the public rarely gets to see. Those shared struggles have only strengthened their bond, creating a relationship that transcends the typical coach-player dynamic, which is precisely why that moment during the celebration resonated so strongly with viewers. It seemed, at least on the surface, to contradict everything we know about how much these two mean to each other. As UCONN advances to yet another Final Four, both Geno and Paige have a chance to write the perfect ending to their story together. A national championship would be the ultimate validation of their partnership, the perfect send-off for a player who has given so much to the program and a coach who has helped shape her into the star she's become. If that were to happen, you can bet the cameras would be watching closely for their interaction in the celebration. Would Geno finally let his guard down? Would we see the emotional side of their relationship that usually stays behind closed doors? Or would he maintain that same stoic demeanor, already thinking ahead to next season and the challenges of a post-Paige era at UConn? Whatever happens, this viral moment has given us a fascinating glimpse into one of the most compelling relationships in college sports. It's reminded us that behind the X's and O's, behind the wins and losses, sports is ultimately about human beings, complex, emotional, imperfect human beings navigating high-pressure situations under the glare of the public spotlight. For Paige Bueckers, the future is incredibly bright. She'll likely be selected first overall in the WNBA draft, heading to a Dallas team eager to build around her talents. She'll carry with her the lessons learned at UConn, the wisdom imparted by Geno Auriemma, the experiences that have shaped her not just as a basketball player but as a person. For Geno, the challenge will be moving forward without the player who has been the face of his program these past years. He'll need to find new stars, develop new talent, perhaps even adapt his coaching style to a changing landscape in women's college basketball. It's a challenge he's faced before, of course. Great players have come and gone from UConn, and the program has continued to thrive. But there's something special about Paige Bueckers, something unique about what she's brought to UConn. Her combination of skill, charisma and competitive fire has made her not just a great player but a transformative one, someone who has helped elevate the entire sport. Replacing that won't be easy even for a coach with Geno's track record of developing talent. Perhaps that's the real story behind that viral moment, not a coach snubbing his player but a coach beginning the difficult process of saying goodbye to someone who has meant so much to him and his program. A coach who, despite all his success and experience, still finds it challenging to navigate the emotional terrain of these relationships. The beauty of sports is that it gives us these moments of raw humanity, these glimpses into the complex dynamics that exist between coaches and players, between individuals pursuing excellence together. That brief interaction between Geno Auriemma and Paige Bueckers may have lasted only seconds, but it sparked conversations and reflections that go much deeper than the surface-level question of whether a coach acknowledged his player during a celebration. It's reminded us that behind the championships and accolades, behind the press conferences and public personas, there are real people with real feelings, navigating relationships that are meaningful and consequential. And sometimes, those relationships are too complex, too multi-layered to be fully understood through the lens of a single moment caught on camera. As UConn continues its march through the tournament, as Paige Bueckers looks to cap her college career with the national championship, this story will continue to evolve. Perhaps we'll see more moments between coach and star player that give us additional insight into their relationship. Perhaps the narrative will shift based on how they interact in the games and celebrations to come. But regardless of how this season ends, regardless of whether UConn cuts down the nets or falls short of that goal, the legacy of Geno Auriemma and Paige Bueckers' partnership is already secure. They've elevated each other, challenged each other, brought out the best in each other. They've given us unforgettable basketball moments, and yes, even some off-court moments that have sparked conversation and debate. In the final analysis, that's what great sports stories do. They transcend the game itself and give us something more meaningful to consider. The relationship between a legendary coach and a transcendent player, the complex emotions that come with saying goodbye, the pressure and expectations that come with representing a program like UConn. In that brief moment during the celebration, with confetti falling and cameras rolling, we got a glimpse into all of that complexity, and regardless of how you interpret Geno's reaction, or lack thereof, to Paige's playful gesture, there's no denying that it's given us something compelling to think about, something that goes beyond the final score or the X's and O's. As Paige Bueckers prepares to leave UConn and take her talents to the WNBA, as Geno Auriemma prepares to coach a team without her for the first time in years, that viral moment serves as a reminder of everything they've experienced together and everything that's still at stake in these final games of their partnership. It's a complicated, multi-layered story, much like the relationship between the coach and player at the center of it. And perhaps that's exactly why it's captured our attention and sparked so much discussion. In a world that often wants to reduce sports to simple narratives of winning and losing, this moment reminds us that there's so much more going on beneath the surface. The clock is ticking on the Geno Paige era at UConn, and that awkward snub might be something both will look back on with regret. After years of pushing each other to greatness, their final dance deserves a better ending than a viral moment of disconnect.